Good morning. This is Charlotte Black from Charlotte Black Live Morning Coffee. How are you guys doing? It's been a little bit since the last time we got a chance to chop it up. So, I had to take a little break. I needed some an emotional, what do you call it? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Emotional hiatus or whatever it was. I needed to take a break. Hell, I needed some damn me time, and that's what the hell I did. I took me some me time. So anyway, I just had to regroup. You know how that is. We all go through it. There was a lot going on, and I was trying to, embrace the new me. And so I did, which was, that was a really interesting process. You know what I mean? And I'm just going to speak on that for a minute. So, I'm all for people just, being who you are, express yourself however you want to express yourself, things like that, right? But it was really funny. I always say that, right? But when it came down to me really expressing, like, my true self and embracing me as I am, and I'm talking about my hair, okay? I had a really, really hard time with that. And that was one of the reasons when I went back to like wearing protective hairstyles. One of the things that I remember saying to myself was, the only bad thing about wearing protective hairstyles is that people get used to seeing you this particular way. And then when you try to go back to, your natural, sometimes it's not, it's like a shocker for some people. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who's gone through this whole dilemma, but it was a little bit of a dilemma for me. And I have to be honest and say that for a minute I was like, I don't know how well that's going to be received. I'm not really sure. And then at some point, I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to do me. And either you like it or you don't like it. You know what I mean? I'm the same me I've always been. I just look a little different. So anyway, that's my story. I always have one. So what's going on out there in the world? Let me see. So I was online this week and I was looking at some of the news out there, and they were talking about the recycling, plastic recycling, and how these countries, we've been sending all this plastic trash to these different countries to recycle, and they're starting to turn us down. I think Malaysia was one, I think China was another one, but they're just getting so much trash. Like they have mounds and mounds of this plastic trash. I think it's on the MSN stores. You guys got to look that up. That's why we have to do a little bit better about recycling, me included, because I'm horrible. You know what I mean? I don't have a blue trash can. I don't. I need to go get one, or whatever color the recycling trash can. I don't have one. So I try to be good about it and get a plastic bag to put more plastic stuff in. But then I'm like, okay, maybe I need to, you know, try to do a little bit better. So, just for my aunt is, she works with the EPA. So I'm just trying to put a shout out there about environmentalists. I know you guys see my eyes darting. So my guests are on the other side of the window. We keep it real on this show. So I keep looking at them. They looking at me, and I'm trying to look at you. It's crazy. But that's okay. We're going to work it out. Um, the weather. Has the weather been crazy? The weather has been off the chain. Folks, places are flooding. Tornadoes are tearing up stuff. It's ridiculous. So all those people that were thinking, oh no, it's all good, they're believers now. It's crazy out there right now with all this weather. So I always keep my eye on it. And we got, the hurricane season coming. So it's going to be interesting to see how it was. Last year it was pretty bad. I think the last thing I read, they weren't expecting hurricane season to be as bad as it was last year. But, we're going to have to see on that. So stay tuned. I really do try to stay connected with what's going on with the weather, and also, bring that to you guys every week. So I'll try to, make sure we get that done. So what are we talking about today? Today we're going to talk about emotional nutrition. So, I got to get my handy dandy phone out because y'all know how I do. And I'm going to, if I can figure out how to turn the thing on, I'm going to tell you what that is. So from my perspective, Emotional nutrition are those things, those emotional needs you have, and I say at a young age, so that you are emotionally healthy adults as you get older. Because I know y'all done seen some adults around here are that are just not emotionally healthy or emotionally developed. So, we all have our issues. We all lack somewhere, and I'm not saying that as a criticism. I'm just saying we've all seen it. And a lot of times, especially like when you're in the whole dating arena, right? Um, we'll go, girl, what is wrong with him? Like, he act like he ain't get no love when he was little. Maybe he didn't. I mean, I'm just saying. So that's what we're going to talk about, the importance of getting your emotional nutrition. And when you don't get it, how do you respond to that? So um, my opinion is, just like anything else, if you're not getting what you need, just like your body, right? If, let's just say, you are vitamin D deficient, and you're not feeding it to your body is going to start pulling that nutrition from your teeth, from your bones. Then your teeth gonna start, it's the whole, you start a whole nother process. It's very similar with emotional nutrition as well. I did look it up, and the definition I read online was this. It says emotional nutrition means constantly giving yourself a positive mindset, and keeping yourself away from negativity. It means to give yourself the self-esteem you need, a lot of laughter, a clean mind away from stress and anxiety. True emotional healing doesn't happen without feeling. The only way out is through. That's my quote. But basically, keeping yourself up, knowing that you're loved, and without having, just having self-love is part of that. And getting that nutrition starts with, like, your mother. That's your first contact when you're a baby. And these mothers now, it's very sad, but some of the mothers now, I don't know if they don't know, or they have their own issues they're trying to battle, like depression, postpartum depression. That's very real. And if these kids don't get what they're supposed to have, then this is what happens. They develop into emotionally unstable or underdeveloped adults. So that's my spiel on it. Also, I found this blurb too, also on emotional health. It says, emotional health is an important part of overall health. People who are emotionally healthy are in control of their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. It means you are aware of your emotions. You can deal with them, whether they are positive or negative. Emotionally healthy people still feel stress or anger and sadness, but it just means that they're in control of their emotional position. Those are my words. So today on the show, I've brought three. I have three guests. So we have Khadijah Shaw, who is a crisis intervention specialist, and also my family. She get on my nerves. I had to say that low because she out there. I don't want her to hear what I had to say. She's going to have to watch the show to see what I said. Anyway, I love her to death, but she'll be on the show. I have my good friend Vincent Brantley and Chris Armstrong from Veritas Culture, and they'll be coming on the show. And we're all going to just sit and, chop it up about emotional nutrition. I'll let them, explain kind of what they do, and then get their take on the topic. You've heard mine. I think it's important. I know it's important. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to bring them up, and then we're going to talk about it. So I'll see you guys when I get back.
Are you hungry yet? Come on over to Peru's Chicken, where we're cooking up mouth-watering Peruvian-style dishes like quesadillas, tacos, burritos, yuca, arroz con mariscos, camarones a la parrilla, charbroiled chicken, fresh salads, and so much more. Our friendly staff at both of our locations, Lanham, at 9001 Annapolis Road in Lanham, Maryland, or Mitchellville at 12106 Central Avenue in Mitchellville, Maryland, we are ready to serve you. Just come on in. Y claro que sí, hablamos español. Peru's Chicken. ¿Tengo hambre?
All right, so we're back. So to my immediate left is Vincent Brantley, Chris Armstrong, and then Khadijah Shaw. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
And don't be all stiff and act. Look, they are. You should have saw them earlier. They were in here clowning. Now they're like, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I need y'all to loosen up a little bit.
We just want to behave.
Yeah, please behave.
Well said.
Yeah. Okay, so emotional nutrition. That's what our topic is, guys. You know, I sent you a text.
She sure did.
Yeah, she didn't really appreciate it because she wanted me to go into depth, and wasn't nobody doing all that in no text. So that's what it is. So this is how I came up with the topic, right? I was, doing some soul searching, which I do often, in my little journal right here. And I was trying to figure out, like, how maybe some of the things I struggle with contributed to, was contributed at a younger age. So I had heard something online which kind of prompted the whole process. And I thought, that's very true. Like, I can think back to, like, real young when, first of all, let me stop and say this. What we consider as emotional nutrition, right? And maybe what our parents consider as emotional nutrition may not necessarily be the same. Only because, and this is just my opinion, only because they come from a different time than we do. So what may seem, and then what their parents thought was, needed is different, right? So as we, what am I trying to say?
So
as we evolve, right?
There are generational differences in emotional nutrition.
Right. So as we evolve, right, we learn more, and we recognize the different things that we need. And I'm saying that I can see the impact of the things maybe I felt I didn't get as a young kid, and how it affects me now. Right, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this is where I'm getting this topic. So, with that being said, what y'all got to say? Did y'all like that? I love that.
She just dropped it. Mic drop.
Yeah, boom.
She did.
Okay.
So I know, Khadijah, you work with people all the time, crisis intervention specialists. So you probably see people who demonstrate, like, a lack of emotional nutrition. So probably we need to give the audience like an example of, like, what that would be.
Well, I work with people who are mentally ill, so I think there's a difference between mental illness and emotional nutrition. I mean, they can go hand in hand, but mental illness is a chemical imbalance for the most part.
And we are not talking about the physical. So let's talk about, this is about to get juicy, y'all. Let's talk about your personal experiences.
My personal experiences?
Yeah, because, you do, your dating and stuff. So just give us
Did she put me on blast?
Just a little bit.
Oh, my God.
What?
I'm just saying, what?
Camera zoom in.
You gotta make it juicy. You know what I'm saying?
I'll make it juicy.
Oh, you gonna make it juicy?
I'm gonna make it juicy. Wait. This ain't that type of show, Chris. No, I'm gonna make it juicy. That type of show.
This is morning coffee.
I'm gonna make it juicy.
Girl, and I got mine. I don't know what y'all doing.
Chris is ready to step to the mic. Chris,
all right, go ahead, Chris.
And this isn't about relationships, but this is juicy. It's a little controversial, and it is about emotional nutrition. And
Okay.
it's the type of work we do. So we get asked to go into organizations all the time where people just can't stand each other.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
The culture's gone, at least in their minds, and our job is to walk in and figure out how broke is it.
Okay.
So here's a lack of emotional nutrition. So someone brings up the topic of white privilege.
Okay.
They say we don't like the term. You unpack that, because our job is to unpack it. We're both facilitators, we're both coaches. Our job is to unpack it, figure out what don't you like about the term. And someone says something like, because I'm white and I didn't have privilege. Okay, seek to understand, ask questions, challenge assumptions, figure out, okay, where are they coming from? And what starts coming out of their mouth is, I'm sick and tired of seeing people get promoted because of their color. I'm sick and tired of me not being promoted because of my color. I'm sick and tired of seeing a history months all the time that aren't Caucasian history months or that aren't men's history months. I'm sick and tired of, I'm sick and tired of, I'm sick and tired of, I'm sick and tired of. And what we feel as facilitators is all of that weight that they carry around them every day. So no emotional nutrition there. And our job is to figure out how do we, at least educate you a little bit on what white privilege is, or whatever the topic is. In this case, white privilege. In another case, it's what led to the Charlottesville race riots, because we facilitated that. What's this? What's weighing on your mind about the Kavanaugh confirmation? What's weighing on your mind about recycling? Whatever.
Right.
Because in today's environment, we carry so much emotional baggage. And where it comes from, as you said, is generally speaking from such a young place and sort of how we grew up, and it certainly comes from everything being illuminated. And there's just a lot of that going around.
Yeah.
What would you add?
Yeah, when I think of emotional nutrition, the first thing that comes to mind is emotional health.
Yes.
And when you look at our society today, many things that we confront in the workplace, many of the things that we also face as relationship coaches has to do with emotional health. And not finding ways or seeking ways to feed their emotional needs.
Yes.
Just like your physical needs, you have emotional needs. We're human beings. We are social beings. There are some out there who will claim, I'm not emotional, but anger is an emotion.
Yes, it is.
Frustration is an emotion. If you feel these things, you are a human being. Congratulations, welcome. So
I drink to that.
then the question becomes, how do I set myself up to be healthy emotionally? And you bring up a good point. Our childhood, depending on where you grew up, how you grew up, what you were taught, may not have set you up for success.
True.
In an emotional way, nor may have set you up for success in a dietary, physical way.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But you have a choice in how you feed yourself from that point forward.
Absolutely true.
And many people have made decisions. I'm going to go vegan. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be healthier. Have we made those same decisions emotionally?
Yeah.
That we're going to choose different sources, different methods of feeding ourselves. We're going to identify what we need individually, emotionally.
And I think that the key there is identify, because a lot of people function, and I've probably been, guilty of it as well. You go around operating without even knowing that you're operating on these, what I call scripts, that lead you to this emotional imbalance.
Operating
if you
on
don't,
empty.
right,
Mm-hmm.
like if you don't know that you're lacking it, right, until it becomes so big that you can't ignore it, then you're like, well, how did this come up? Well, why am I here? Why do these people keep saying this to me? Why is everybody reacting this way when I say this, or whatever it is, right? And I think, Chris, you said something that was really that really caught my attention. What was it about the how we look at things like white privilege? So I think it has to do with how white privilege, that term, like we attach an emotional charge to that. Right. And it's, why do we attach the emotional charge? Who said that it should be charged this way? You know what I mean? It's like we don't come into the world thinking, oh, emotional privilege. And then not emotional, but white privilege with this issue. Words don't mean anything until we give them meaning. It's just a word until we give them meaning. I could say green, but if it doesn't mean anything to anybody, it just means green. But if I'm raised, taught that green means kiss my ass, when you say green, I'm ready. What? Mm-hmm. Oh, you want to do something? And I'm just making, so anyway, so that's where we're going. Khadijah. No?
What do you want?
You see what I got to deal with?
Still looking for that juicy relationship story you want to think
about.
So,
okay, so
look, I tried to avoid the juicy relationship story.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
So given what you do on a daily basis, do you see any sort of emotional nutrition needed from other people you work with around understanding the mentally, or even around sort of their family, like their family unit?
You're talking about the specific clients?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, there is definitely a lack of empathy that you see over time. Mentally ill people tend to drain their families, and so they have real emotional needs. Their families have real emotional needs, but they don't seem to be able to connect. Um, Even the people that serve the mentally ill, we need to keep our emotional nutrition in check too.
Absolutely.
So it's important to leave your work at your work and do other things.
Can you say that one more time into the camera?
Leave your work at work and do other things.
Yeah, look, I know I have quite a few, some viewers out there who are workaholics, which I get it, okay?
Yeah.
But, you know, there comes a time when you have to take a mental health break.
Yeah.
It's necessary. You looking a little confused.
No, you said mental health break. I don't know.
Well,
right.
you know,
Topic
emotional.
change. Go on,
Emotional health. I'm sorry, emotional health. But your emotions affect your
you're
mentality.
right, you're right.
So
And
it
it
is.
affects your body.
Yeah, and your body. And speaking of which,
And
this
mine.
is another thing that I had, was thinking about along with this topic is when you don't get certain emotional needs fulfilled, like at a young age, sometimes that leads to you seeking that nutrition in places that are not as healthy. Overeating,
Amen.
drinking, and it's not just those things.
Promiscuity.
Promiscuity, workaholics. You can as much as you could think of, you can overdo it in those areas, trying to fulfill this thing that really can only be fulfilled here.
But
versus it can't be fulfilled out here. You know what I mean? But you have to recognize it so that you can, because if someone's not giving it to you, then you're going to have to find it within yourself. I mean, am I way off base? Or you guys agree?
no, you're on point.
Okay.
I would just say that it becomes a matter of the it. You say giving it to you, but what exactly are they giving you? So when you think of from a physical standpoint, you talk about nutrition. Well, if I'm hungry, I can satisfy hunger with sugar, soda, with things that are bad for me.
Right.
That's an it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go to the same person who's giving me sugar, and I'm like, it makes I'm no longer hungry, but yet I'm having all of these issues.
Break it down.
I'm
Vince.
discontent.
Right.
I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I feel unsatisfied. But they're giving it to me.
But I think
it's not the it that I need.
There you
right. There we go. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
so
very true.
That comes back.
And
to
sometimes
figuring
people
that out.
give you what they can, like emotionally, but it still does not satisfy that space.
And nor should it. So there's a phrase that goes, you complete me. And it's one of the most unhealthy phrases.
Yeah,
you don't need
that's
someone
right.
to
There you
complete you.
go.
You need someone to compliment you.
Exactly.
Because you have to love yourself first. Genuinely speaking, I know it's a cliche, but it's just true. You have
It
to
is
love
really
yourself first if you're going to expect anyone else to love you. Because if you don't, you will accept less than what you deserve. So when people give you that negative stuff, the bad you're going to feel like, well, that's the best I deserve. Or you're going to feel like, maybe I deserve more, but if I drop this person, I won't be able to get somebody else because I don't love myself enough.
Right. Now that's very important, and I think when I was kind of thinking about this topic, right, one of the things that kind of came up, because I did discuss it with some other folks, was sometimes, like in relationships, right, a person could love themselves and another, because we all have some level of issue.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, if you're with the right person, you can navigate and work that out. But sometimes, even though you may be getting whatever you need here and whatever you need here, sometimes we don't always. What am I trying to say? We don't give ourselves we don't ask for what we need.
Sometimes we don't know it.
You know what I mean?
Or sometimes we're afraid to ask for what we need.
Right, and that would be the reason, the fear. But we often don't ask for what we need, or we're, like you said, afraid is probably the best way, because people are afraid to say, you know what, you're really good, you're really cool, I really like you, you got all this going on, but I need this right here.
I'm finding that it's really empowering to ask for what I need. I'm sort of dating someone right now, and it's new, it's fun, it's kind of scary because I'm not doing my usual thing, uh, which we'll just keep that on the
Okay,
down
I'm not
low.
going to expect this. I'm drinking my coffee.
But I'm just saying, there's some things that he does that I don't like, and I just tell him, and he hears me, and we deal with it right there in the moment, and it doesn't become this big issue that I've kind of, you know, pined over for days, or talked to everyone about except for him. So I'm finding it very empowering to just tell him what I need, and if he can give it to me, he can. If he can't, then at least I know.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too, because when you don't discuss and you're not honest with your partner about it, I think that's when you start getting these emotionally charged
Yes.
feelings.
Yes.
And if you just sit and let them fester,
Yes.
eventually when it comes to the surface, it's an ugly situation that could have been avoided by just being open and honest. Because in my experiences, I have been with people who I felt were really good people. They just couldn't give me what I needed.
Yep.
And you try to make it work, you try to make it work, you try to make it work. But at the end of the day, I was the only one like eating crow or eating crap because it wasn't fulfilling me. I wasn't fulfilled. It wasn't because I didn't love myself. It was like, I'm not being fed. Like, I need more. And they just weren't able.
Right.
And sometimes when that happens, you have to let that go.
Right.
In whatever way, I guess, everybody's got their own situation. But for me, I had to let that go so that I could continue to grow and mature emotionally. And in other ways,
I
too.
can tell you one of the most important emotional needs for me is consistency. And I think that's across all relationships, whether it's a romantic one or not. Consistency allows me to trust a person, and then I can just, relax.
Yeah.
How do you define this consistency, though?
Oh, integrity, do what you say. Don't, show me, as my friend says, don't send your representative.
Yes.
Show me who you are. Don't send me the neat package with, all the crud, deep down. Just put it all on the surface for me.
Yeah, because it's deception if you do that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a kind of deception.
And then it allows you to work with their package, because we're all imperfect, as opposed to working with what you think is this perfect package, and then you start to see the little chips as you go along. So integrity, and that plays a big role in being consistent in your presentation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, we've done relationship coaching for 10 years now, and we can tell you the number one biggest issue for people is lack of self-love. But the number two is, and I think Vince was intimating at earlier, is people don't even know what their needs are.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you have needs which should be non-negotiable, and you have wants which are negotiable. And if you struggle to even understand what your needs are, you may not know until the third or fourth month that the person isn't the person for you, but you just didn't know.
Yeah.
And in some cases, to your earlier point, it's not just about lack of self-love. Sometimes we don't demand that our needs be met, because sometimes we tell ourselves we're being too picky.
Yeah.
And particularly, I hate to say this, but it's just from our clientele perspective, particularly women. If women are afraid of looking picky or looking like they're too shallow, there's nothing shallow about it. You can't invent chemistry. You like what you like.
Right.
But for
That's a good
those clients who come to us and they say, well, I don't know what I need, the first step is taking account of what you've had. If you really take a look at what you've had, you can draw the inverse to what it is you've been missing.
Yeah.
And then experiment in that domain for a little bit. So if all you've had is physical relationships, if all your relationships were based on physical attraction, well, what about a relationship that maybe offers some chemistry in a different way? Partnership,
Absolutely.
Mentorship,
Absolutely.
Friendship. What about exploring different domains that will then allow you to see yourself differently?
That's right.
Now you can be more, more certain about what it is that you need and you don't need because you've expanded the pool.
Right.
But people often will hunt based on what they've been fed throughout the years. So you don't
Yeah.
know you're missing these nutrients because you've been living off fish and rice.
Right.
Fish and rice, fish and rice, fish and rice.
It's kind of like a cleanse. You have to do I'm a big proponent of doing a cleanse. When you end one relationship, you need some time to just kind of regroup and think, reconnect with yourself,
Yeah.
reconnect with what your needs are, take responsibility for your role in whatever went down. But that cleansing period, I think, is very important.
I agree with you, Khadijah, and I think that a lot of people don't. I know lots of people, and I've been guilty of it guilty of it myself.
I wasn't
from
going to put you on
jumping out.
blast, but okay.
Yeah, we were talking about you all along.
You see what I'm saying?
Intervention.
This is why you don't bring people on the show that know you for years. You don't do that. Don't bring your family on the show. Don't do it. But I mean, it is important, and I think that the beauty in me having gone through that,
Yes,
thank you very
yes,
much,
Yes. Preach.
is to be able to honestly communicate that experience with others, and that is it is very important to take a time out and kind of do an after action report with yourself
Like a program manager.
on what went wrong, or just looking at the whole picture. I'm not saying that you need to go and take all the blame on yourself. I'm
Right.
just saying you need to look at it objectively without the emotional triggers and charge
And
involved.
it takes time.
Yeah,
It takes
so
time
that you can really look at that and see, and I always try to look at in my maturity, I try to look at my past relationships and see what did I learn from that. To me, I never say, oh, I messed up with that one. I don't want to talk about it. No relationship or interaction that I've had has been a mistake. None. I don't believe in that. I believe that from each and every encounter or interaction, there was a lesson for me to be learned, which is the reason why it was before me, was to learn something. Maybe it was because I didn't learn it before. Maybe it's something I'm repeating, but I look at it as a lesson, and I just look back on it and say, okay, what did I get out of that, and try to build from there just to make me a better person.
So there's two things I hear you talking about, and commonly they're overlooked. One is accountability.
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
The other is empowerment. Every day you're in a relationship is a choice you made. And there's empowerment in that. Even if it wasn't the best choice, it still was your choice.
Right, absolutely.
So when we start living our lives as if we are the object of everything and everything's happening to us, and these things we can't control, we start to feel a certain way about living. We start to feel a certain way about loving. But at the same time, when we recognize, I've given this day to this person for a reason, let me draw some accountability to what that reason was. And as long as I'm doing things that are consistent with what I want, well, I can't be so far from good. The thing is, when do I say enough is enough?
Yes.
And when do I recognize that this is not feeding me? And even in the absence of a knowledge of what it is I'm missing, I know I don't have it.
Teach people how to treat us by virtue of what we expect and what we accept. But what do we expect? Do we even know?
That's right. Okay, guys, listen. I was not going to do a break. I told them, I said, we're going to run straight through. But I don't know about you, but it's hot up in here.
It is HOT.
So, listen, you guys, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask my team back here to, we're gonna take a short break, probably like a minute, just so we can open the door, get some air in here, and then we're going to come back and we're going to continue with this topic. Okay?
Are you hungry
All right.
yet? Come on over to Peru's Chicken, where we're cooking up mouth-watering Peruvian-style dishes like quesadillas, tacos, burritos, yuca, arroz con mariscos, camarones a la parrilla, charbroiled chicken, fresh salads, and so much more. Our friendly staff at both of our locations, Lanham at 9001 Annapolis Road in Atlanta, Maryland, or Mitchellville at 12106 Central Avenue in Mitchellville, Maryland, we are ready to serve you. Just come on in. Y claro que sí, hablamos español. Peru's Chicken. ¿Tengo hambre?
Oh my God.
Got issues.
How y'all doing? Welcome back. This is Charlotte Black Live Morning Coffee. Here with my guests Vincent, Chris, and Khadijah. We were laughing because on that little break we were scrambling around like little ants around here trying to hurry up.
Well, wait a minute. Two of us were scrambling around.
We had a comedian in the building. I ain't gonna say who that was. It was commentating on our scrambling. So anyway, okay, back to back to the topic. So, what would be your recommendations? Like, what do you think? What's the best way to, other than, of course, sit and evaluate where you've been, like Vince so eloquently pointed out. You have to kind of review where you've been to identify where you need to go or where you want to go. But is there anything else that you would, add to emotional nutrition?
I would recommend journaling. I know some people think it's corny, but when you journal, when you capture your emotions or your thoughts in the moment, it might not mean a whole lot to you, but when you go back to it, you can read and you can see where you were mentally, emotionally, and you can see what your patterns of behavior are, what your patterns of thoughts are, how you get stuck in certain, ruts. Journaling really allows you to get things off your chest in the moment and then go back and evaluate. That would be one of my recommendations for, creating healthy emotional nutrition.
Now, I just want to piggyback off of that for a second before I move on to you, Chris. That is something that I do regularly, and what I've found over the years is that it kind of disarms that charge. Like in the moment, like I'm writing and I'm mad and I'm like, whatever I'm saying, which normally ain't nice sometimes. But what it does for me is it releases, it finds an outlet for that emotion. So that now I'm not sitting with it on my chest. You know what I mean? Now it's on the paper.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure, absolutely.
You know that ridiculous situation that I was involved in, we'll just call it South Carolina?
Sure, you can say what you want to.
Look.
We didn't get the memo.
Everyone had to sit back.
Because I know that was big
feel a
for
little
you.
left out. I mean,
everyone saw patterns of behavior, but I couldn't see it. And so when I was involved with South Carolina, who turned out to be a narcissist, I journaled. And it was when I went and reviewed my journals, it clicked for me. I was like, oh,
yeah,
I can see it. This is what they were talking about. So I am a living testimony. Hallelujah. to the importance of journaling and the growth that comes through journaling. And so, again, and you don't have to buy a fancy journal book. You could type on your computer.
Hold on.
However you want to capture your thoughts.
Nothing fancy about that, y'all. Look at all them words in there. I was not joking. I have stacks and stacks. Go ahead, Khadijah.
I tend to, because my thoughts I don't have racing thoughts, but I tend to type out my thoughts, and I like that, so that works for me. But yeah, I got out of that situation. I did my cleanse. What? How many months? 6 months cleanse.
Yeah, it was a little while.
And it was longer.
No, it was a little while. I don't know how long it was.
Yeah.
But that is a very good example of what I was talking about when you release the emotional charge, because I remember, and I'm not gonna put it all out there. I'm just saying, I remember a moment when we had to have some girlfriend intervention.
a moment or two.
because Khadijah was on the edge.
I was on the edge.
And she was ready to blow up the spot.
I
Not
was
literally. Let me just say that.
yeah.
Not literally.
Figuratively speaking,
yes.
some things were about to go down.
So we had to kind of talk her off the ledge. But, like I said, these things happen, though. And that's one of the great things about having other healthy relationships around you, that when you're in an unhealthy or emotionally imbalanced situation, you've got healthy people around you who can say, hey, Peter,
Yeah.
I need you to just take a minute, breathe,
Pull back.
reel you in, because we need that.
Yeah.
Chris?
I'm going to say two things. So one is going to be listen to understand. And here's what I mean by that. So Vince said this earlier, a lot of our emotional nutrition comes from, or not, it's good or bad based on what's going on around us. We let ourselves be influenced by what we read on social media. We let ourselves be influenced by what we see in the news. We let ourselves be influenced by what people tell us. But what we're doing more often than not is we're responding. Somebody says something, it incites us a certain way, we respond. And that emotional nutrition goes down. We become hungry again. So we have to learn to listen to understand, to put ourselves in the position where we're willing to hear what someone else is saying, further investigate it, even if it's just a tweet, further investigate the content behind that tweet, further investigate, whatever you heard in a 5-minute news blurb. Because if you don't, you're going to let yourself get emotionally hijacked all the time by things that immediately give you a visceral reaction. And then the second thing I would say is, and it's really sort of a partner to that, is get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
We're living in a world where everything's illuminated, where cultural division is happening all the time now. And a lot of it's because we're not comfortable in this space. I mean, we're all here, probably pushing beyond 40. I mean, I know I am. And so we grew up in a time where there wasn't Twitter, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't all this stuff coming at you all the time. You didn't know everybody's business, how everybody felt, why they felt that way.
Right.
So it was easy to be comfortable in your own skin, to be comfortable with what you thought you knew. Now when all this stuff comes, it's easy to be uncomfortable very quickly. But you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable so you don't let yourself get emotionally hijacked by the world around you.
That's a very good
point. That's a very good point. Now, the only thing where I slightly differ is that you say we respond. I think that responding is okay, but reacting is not.
What's the difference?
I think when you react, that's when the charge comes. Respond, you recognize it. I think it's more surface. Reacting is more deep. Like, for instance, oh, they did this on TV. I'm about to go and tear up the whole. That's a reaction. You know what I mean?
So a reaction is how it affects you, and a response is how you affect the situation. Is that what you're saying?
All I was trying to say was, like, when I say listen to respond, I mean, like, while they're talking, you're listening to respond, meaning you're not actually listening to what they're saying.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
Like, she's talking, and I'm just like, okay.
Right, because I know what I'm going to say already, so hurry up and get through what you're saying.
Right,
gotcha. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha. And that is important. Yeah. That is important. Because I do think it's important to, acknowledge. And you can't respond unless you're listening, really.
That's all we
You cannot respond unless you're really listening. So I think response is important, because I'm going to tell you, I cannot stand when you reach out to somebody and they don't. Have you ever had that happen? Have you ever had that?
And they don't respond?
And they don't respond. I cannot stand that.
Me
I think that is so rude. Even if you say, listen, I don't want to be bothered, or I can't talk to you right now, say that. To ignore someone.
I'm with you.
To ignore someone is the root. This is just my own personal.
No, I agree.
I think that it's rude, and so I think response is important.
I do too.
But reacting, that's where you kind of have to temper that, I think.
And I'm going to respond after I understand.
Exactly.
After I understand.
Exactly.
And it might take a little bit. It might be like, I might look at it and be like, I'm uncomfortable, I don't like it. I might have to take a step back before I respond. That's all I'm saying, is like, have a little
let's see if we can run this down. So, in order to respond properly, you have to understand. And in order to understand, you have to listen.
There you go.
Not just hear.
We hear with the ears. There's a
difference between listening and
with the ears,
hearing.
we listen with our head and our heart.
Yeah, so you have to, you know what I mean? You have to, there's a difference. So,
right on.
You have to listen.
That's it.
So, okay, Vince.
I thought I already solved this.
Oh, this
Boom.
Joker right here.
Listen, when you're
He's
sitting,
humble too, you know.
when you are sitting, just imagine yourself sitting at a table, and whoever the other person is, the other relationship, your relationship interest is on the other side. I think in relationships we spend too much time focusing on that who's in that chair and not who's in the chair that you're sitting at.
Amen.
Everybody who sits across from you at that table is basically a mirror, and they give you a different way of seeing yourself. You have to figure out if you like the person you're seeing.
Oh, yes.
When you feel frustration, when you feel left out, when you feel ignored, it's because of that relationship, but you're a part of it. So who am I in this picture, and do I like the person that I am? Do I like the way I feel? Those are the things you control.
Exactly.
Maybe it's time to change the mirror. Get a different look at yourself. That's what I would
Yeah,
say.
that's
needs to be done.
have this little quote here. It says, "Make choices for yourself." Yourself. No one is responsible for what you are feeling.
I love it. And it's not selfish and it's not self-serving. You have to do that first or you're not going to be able to take care of anyone else.
Yeah.
Right. And that kind of goes with those comments. You know, sometimes you're talking to people, well, you made me mad, or you pissed me off, or, you know, you made me blah, blah, blah. No one has made you do anything.
Right.
That is a choice that you made in response.
Right.
It's like social media. When people blame social media, it's an inanimate object.
Right.
Right.
You chose to follow it. You chose to follow that trail. You chose to let it incite you.
Yeah. So I would say, in order to kind of gauge your emotional nutrition, you probably, one of the things I think you could do is to check what triggers you.
It's a good one.
That's
You know, find out
especially
where
today.
your triggers are.
Yes.
You know, because, you know, you walking around, you don't know where your triggers are. People just pushing buttons and you just all over the place, and it's just not cute.
Reacting.
Yeah. So you just, so I think that is one of the ways that you can really kind of begin to get a handle on your emotional nutrition is by checking your triggers. I think that's important. So guys, we are pretty much at the end of the show.
Boom.
We got a full few, we still have a little time, but
Okay.
I just didn't know if there was anything you wanted to, you know, say to our audience. You want to give out some information. I personally have ordered gifts for all of you. I'm saying I'm putting this on TV. I did order
Where
gifts.
are they?
Yeah.
So I guess I didn't order them. They're coming from Canada. I'm like, where is this package? So I'm like,
False
oh my
advertising.
God. So I
Yeah.
designed them, and they're supposed to be coming in because I do have a retail line, a Charlotte Black retail line. So I do have some gifts. So I will make sure, because you're within reach.
That's her way to bring us back.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
But
That's what her to bring
I
us
think
back.
I think that you guys, I think they should come back. I think that we should have like a part 2.
I agree.
I don't know what the title should be, but I think a
agree.
part 2 would be real cool. No, I'm serious. You know, we always say that, right, people? For
Call
real.
part 2
I'm happy to
nutritious
come back.
emotions.
What's part 2?
Nutritious emotions.
Nutritious
So you
emotions.
just
Bam.
flip it.
Flip it.
Nutritious.
Look at that.
What's
called-
delicious and nutritious
Emotions.
emotions coming at you right here.
So
Now
you
I
guys
get to do
are.
my hurrah. Boom. There it is.
I think that would be excellent. Now, you know, typically when you do a part 2, it comes right after part 1.
Yeah.
This is a weekly show, so if y'all all in
Is it Mother's Day next weekend?
next Sunday,
It's
right?
not on a Saturday.
I'm
I mean,
just
come on, what
Saturday
you need, a
morning.
day to prep?
I'm just checking. You know, I might
So
have
see
some.
what I'm
I
saying?
might have
This
some
is-
things going
See,
on.
this is what we
you
talking
know,
about in a
I'm working on my
relationship.
emotional nutrition.
You need commitment in a relationship.
See, I told you this was gonna be a fun group. I told you. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, guys. But please join us next week when we bring Vince, Chris, and Khadijah back and talk about nutritious emotions.
Yeah, I like that. It's got a little spin to it.
Nutritious emotions. That will be our topic for next week. Oh, that's beautiful. That just worked out great.
Just don't try to patent it. I already got it.
Oh.
Copyright's already
saying?
submitted.
See what I'm saying? We're gonna have to have a
It's in the
sidebar.
Veritas vault.
We're gonna have to have a sidebar because see how people do. I know.
Did someone
All
say
right.
veritasculture.com? I thought someone said.
Yes,
that.
please give your information. We were supposed to get a commercial.
Oh yeah,
I thought
no,
you were
it's
gonna-
good. The commercial?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got commercials.
So anyway, thank you all for
Thank you
coming
for
on the
having us.
show.
Thank you for
I
having
look
us.
forward to you guys coming back next week
All right.
and
Saturday.
continuing this conversation.
All right.
Thank you.
And to all the viewers, thank you again for watching and viewing. And please subscribe to Charlotte Black Live on YouTube. I'm all over the place. Charlotte Black Live Morning Coffee on YouTube. I do also have a Facebook page, Simply Charlotte Black, and that's on Facebook. And then Twitter and all that stuff, which will be in the description boxes. And I'll also put your contact information on there
Absolutely.
as well, so that if
All right.
people want to reach out and have some assistance and
Get in
bring you
touch.
right on in.
All
So
right.
until next week, ladies and gentlemen, have a great week, and we will see you then.